Live here. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is the weekly live broadcast. We do this pretty much every Thursday evening. Sometimes life gets in the way, I can't make it, but generally Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. And I'm here for about an hour usually. Let me get the normal disclosures out of the way here. The only things I ask you guys, you can ask me pretty much anything you want. I don't have a topic planned out. I do my best to respond to all the comments that come in on the live chat. And the only thing I ask, be family friendly, be polite, don't be rude with anybody. That's all. So we'll kick you out if you start being rude or hateful, or if you there we go, if you're not family friendly. So all right, let's get to it. And don't spam me. You know, I do my best to respond, but you don't need to ask the same question over and over and over again unless you see me answer a question that came in well after yours. Then you can ask it again for sure. All right, so we got a couple of people here already. Hello to you, Brad. Hello, Marie. Yeah, Marie, that's it. And Anna from the Catskills says, where you use an AC and then have snow for 3 days in less than a week. It's not that much different around here, honestly. We've had, you already had our hard freeze. Had like rainy, cold weather all last week. And then this week it's been in the 70s, 75. You know, it's crazy. So Chris from Arkansas, good evening to you. And Jonathan from the Caribbean, however you pronounce that. And then we got Tommy from Texas and Tara from Texas as well. Good evening, guys. Glad you could make it. Thanks for joining us. Hello to you, Hannah and James. James says, we just had 2 litters here in Florida. Awesome. Congratulations on your new litters. Hopefully they're big litters. Hopefully they're doing well. And I do want to apologize here real quick. I didn't get any videos out this week. I was just super busy, just didn't have time. But I'm trying. I think I'm about done with a couple of projects, and I'll have a little bit more time. So hopefully I'll get back on track here pretty quick. All right, hello from Miami from Daniel. Good evening, Daniel. Good to see you. Herman says, howdy, Chris from Herman in Midland, Texas. First Last says, finally made a live chat after so long. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Susie from Montana, good evening. Hello to you, Kyle. Says, how warm do I need to keep the quail when it gets cold? Well, that's a good question, and it's that time of year where everybody's worried about winter weather coming up, and what do you need to do to supply heat for your quail? You really don't. All you need to do is give them some way to get out of the wind. As long as they're not out in the wind, they can handle incredibly cold weather. It's not going to bother them really much at all. Feathers are a pretty good insulator. You know, I live in Southwest Missouri, so I don't get as cold or stay cold as long as some of you guys that live in northern parts of the country, but you know, it does get down below freezing here, and it stays down below freezing for, you know, an extended period of time sometimes. Never had a problem with my birds. They've always been just fine. So you shouldn't have to worry about it. Like I said, just give them a way to get out of the wind, some kind of, you know, hide box or something they can get out of the weather. They're going to be just fine. All right, Sue says, thank you for all your help. You've helped me raise quail successfully. Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for watching the videos. I'm glad they're helpful for you. And Ballard Homestead says, it's Barry from Michigan. Good to see you, Barry. Thanks for joining us. Tommy Four Fingers, I now have over 100 quail because of you. I don't know if you're blaming me or whatever, but says, I might say thank you, but super thanks. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Says, we love them. You turned us from chicken farmers. Well, I'm glad to hear that things are going well for you. Thanks for watching the videos. I'm glad that you found them helpful as well. Hello to you, Pam, and good evening to you, Matthew. Taco Promotion says, good evening from South Florida. Just hatched out 7 quail on Halloween. Seller says they are white Russians. Are you familiar with these? Also, is it fine? I fed them live plants at 5 days old. If they ate them, it's probably fine. I don't think I'd worry about that a bit. No, I'm not familiar with white Russian. That's probably just somebody's name for them. Who knows? I know that there's an English white quail and there's Texas A&M whites. Those are the only ones I know that are pure white birds, but you know, I'm not a genetics expert necessarily. I focus on, I mean, if they're Coturnix quail anyway, I don't know of any other white quail. In fact, I don't know of any white quail, period. But anyway, just the Coturnix, those 2 kinds of Coturnix quail. But again, I'm not necessarily an expert on all those things. I don't keep up with all the new fads and new different colors and all those kinds of things, because I pretty much focus on the standard brown colors, the jumbo pharaohs or the meat makers. Those are the ones that I raise, produce the best bang for the buck as far as meat and egg production. So I don't know. I'm not saying that that's not the case, you know, that that's not a breed. It's just not one I'm familiar with. All right. Who's this? Jay says, CA, I don't know if that means California. Got 10 button quail finishing day 2 and got 25 plus rare mixed Coturnic eggs coming Monday. Love the tips on your channel. Found you months ago. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching the videos, by the way. And good luck with your new eggs. All right, where are we at here? Lodrell, hello to you, Lodrell from North Carolina. Kyle says, great, I need to get you some hot salsa. Oh, how warm. Oh, yeah, I do like some hot salsa. I would appreciate that, but you don't have to feel like that. That's fine. Hannah wants to know, how many different animals do I have? I just have the rabbits, the quail, and my dog. That's it. It's all the animals I have right now. We did some chickens in the spring, some meat chickens, but those are all processed in the freezer now. Had one for dinner last night. Very good. Rod says, hey, Chris, I bought male 7.5 week grow out. Do they always seem aggressive towards does before they hit the 6 or 7 month breeding age? Not necessarily. I mean, it can happen sometimes, but hang on, let me grab a drink here. A lot of times rabbits, when they're introduced, especially if it's not a breeding scenario, they can be aggressive towards other rabbits when they're first introduced with each other. But it tends to be more does than bucks that are aggressive, because does get very territorial and really guard their space. Usually your bucks are not really that aggressive, so I would say, are you sure it's a buck, first of all? And second of all, if you just threw it in the cage with the other rabbit, maybe it's just defending itself. If it's a doe in the cage with it, it could be defending itself, like that doe's getting aggressive with it and it's just defending itself. It's probably best to keep them separate, not throw them in together, just, for that reason. All right, James says, Okeechobee, Florida, I think that's how you say that. One rabbit only had 2 babies, but first litter and a smaller Rex rabbit. The other is a lop and tried to kill all her babies. We saved 3. She ate the ears off the ones we saved. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that sounds like she's got pretty bad mothering instincts. I don't know. I mean, if she's a first-time mom, you might try breeding her again, but if it happens again, I definitely wouldn't breed her again. I mean, it's just a terrible trait to have in a rabbit. It does happen from time to time where mothers do that. A lot of the times that's considered to be like a survival instinct, where they're nervous about, like predators coming or something like that. But it can also be just a bad trait that some rabbits have, and it may be best not to breed her again. If it happens again, for sure, I wouldn't breed her after that. All right. Agus says, hello, Chris from Nevada. Nevada. It's Nevada, isn't it? Yeah, I always get that mixed up because we have a city here named Nevada, Missouri, and I get mixed up which one's which sometimes, but yeah, it's Nevada, isn't it? So good to see you. Thanks for joining. My Little Patch says, hey, Chris, I have 10 quail chicks coming in the next few days. Can I put them in the brooder with 2 chicken chicks a week old? I don't know. I don't think I would. I would put them in a separate brooder. They're much, much smaller than chickens. 10 quail chicks coming. You don't tell me what age the quail chicks are, but either way, a week-old chicken is going to be way, way bigger than even a week-old quail. And I think it's probably best to keep them separate. Chickens can be pretty aggressive. As chicks, I don't know that they'll intentionally do anything to the other birds, but they may trample them. I just think it would be best to keep them separate, but I've never tried. So, I mean, you can test it out and see, but those are just my thoughts on it. All right, Tommy Fourfingers says, Coturnics are the way to go. Yeah, I think they're the best bet too. I mean, especially if you're looking for egg and meat production, you can't beat them. That's the way to go. All right, Rod says, keep up the great channel. You keep things simple and understandable. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Raven says, thank you and hello from the Branson region of Missouri. Always enjoy your videos. That's not far at all away from me. In fact, I went there on vacation in September. Was it Projecta? I'm having a hard time pronouncing your name. Hopefully I got it right. It says, hi, we get rabbit fur for babies. I need that. I'm from India. So I think what you're asking me is, where do you get rabbit fur? Like your rabbit did not pull fur and line the nest, and you need something to line the nest with to keep the babies warm. You can use, I just did a video on that just a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago maybe. But you can use any kind of natural substance like cotton balls, cotton batting that you would stuff a pillow with, dryer lint, any of those things work. Don't use a towel, if you want to shred it up, you can use it, but don't use a bath towel there's a good chance the rabbits will get underneath it, and then the mother will get on top of it and trap them underneath it when she's trying to feed. So use something like cotton batting would be a good one. Cotton balls, any of those kinds of things would work out really well. Hopefully that helps. All right. Hannah says, my rabbit just had her first litter. Well, congratulations, Hannah. Hopefully it's a big litter and they're all doing well. Anna wants to know, what are the best tips for dealing with livestock in the winter? Really, it's not as hard as what people think. Most livestock, rabbits and quail, here, let me adjust this camera down a little bit. I feel like I'm off camera. Most livestock, like your rabbits and your quail especially, are much more comfortable in the wintertime than they are in the heat of the summer. The heat of the summer is harder on them. So the only things you really need to do is make sure you're prepared to water. That's the hard part about wintertime, is that water freezes in water bottles, and it freezes much quicker in a water bottle than it would in like a bowl or something like that. So, I use big rubber Crocs because I can knock the ice out of them pretty easily for the rabbits. For the quail, I use Tupperware style containers that have a lid on them, and I just cut a hole in the side for them to stick their head through and get the water out of it. You're gonna have to take water to them a couple of times a day. I usually do it in the morning and then again in the evening. Other than that, just make sure that they're not out in the weather, out in the wind. Give them some way to get out of the wind, give them a wind block, so they're not just out exposed in the wind all the time, and they're going to do just fine. All right, Freezer says, hey, I'm new here. I keep quail, started 6 months ago. Awesome, welcome, thanks for joining us. James says, love all your help. I have over 200 quail now. I breed regularly. I have 2 incubators that do 120 each. I also have 9 rabbits out. You're one of the main shows I watch getting started. Thanks for all the tips. We are absolutely welcome, and thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad to hear that they have proved helpful for you. I'll grab another drink here. Tara says, I learned about you from Living Traditions Homestead. Love them and love your videos. Thank you so much. Yeah, Living Traditions Homestead is one of my favorite channels too. Those guys are great, and they're just super nice people, and tons of tips on homesteading and all those kinds of things. If you guys don't know their channel, go check them out for sure, and tell them I sent you over there, and tell them thanks for sending you to me too. I appreciate that. And again, thanks for watching my videos. I appreciate that as well. All right, Johnny says, did you know that Melaleuca is toxic for bunnies? No, I didn't know that, but I don't have any Melaleuca, so I didn't worry about it necessarily. No, I didn't know that. Good tip. I'm not sure why you would want to give your rabbit Melaleuca, but don't do it, I guess. It's toxic. All right. Looks for Logos says, I have 26 rabbits and 2 bunny barns after watching your rabbit tips videos. Have you ever trained your rabbits? Thanks for Washington State. No, I've never, well, I take that back. Once when I was a kid, I had some rabbits, and we trained them to work a maze. I did it in a science fair project. I won a prize for it. Built a maze out of cardboard, basically, on a board, and trained them to work this maze. They would only do it when they were hungry. I mean, once they had enough food, they were bored and they didn't work the maze anymore. But we did train them to work a maze, and it was kind of neat. But no, other than that, I've never trained my rabbits for anything. Fan Me says, hello, I'm glad I'm finally able to make it. Well, hey, I'm glad you're here too. Thanks for joining. All right, Tommy says, my chickens do well with chickens, but I don't mix them till the quail are at least 5 weeks old. I think that's a typo. I think it's, my chickens do well with quail, but you don't mix them till they're at least 5 weeks old. That's probably good advice. I'd be worried about the chickens. Chickens will eat just about anything that's smaller than them. And I would be worried, especially as the birds get older, hit sexual maturity, that the chickens might do some damage to the quail, but I may be wrong. All right. Jeannie says, greetings from the Jersey Shore. Thanks for all your great video or great infos. I'm very happy, quail. I have very happy quail. Thanks to you. Okay, there we go. Got it out. Well, thank you for the kind comments. I appreciate it. Fan wants to be a moderator. I don't have any moderators assigned in the channel here, and I don't think we need them tonight, but I will keep an eye on things, and if we need one, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make you a moderator, so I don't know. I don't know how to do that. We'll figure it out maybe. Anyway, we'll worry about that later though. Johnny says, let's see, my bunny's 10 months old. Well, congratulations. Hopefully it's doing well. Tommy says, till the quail are at least 5 weeks old. Sorry. Oh, I got it. Yeah, I figured that one out. Agus says, thank you for all the videos. You're very helpful. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hello to you, Brandon. Says hello from Iowa. Enjoy your videos and content. Okay. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate that. LJ says, I have a female jumbo quail getting aggressive. There are 6 hens to 1 roo. What should I do? So you've got 6 hens to 1 rooster. Your female jumbo quail are getting aggressive. You know, that's actually pretty common. A lot of times when you have aggression in your birds, it's the hens that are aggressive. My biggest suggestion for that, I mean, you can try to find the one that is kind of the bully, the main kingpin, so to speak, and remove that from the rest of the flock, give it some time on its own, maybe a month, and then put it back in, and they're going to kind of put her in her place, hopefully, at that point. Or if it keeps up, if it's a problem, long term, and you can't seem to get it fixed, then I would just call that bird out of your flock. Whether that means, if you're raising them for meat, just eat it. If not, then you can find somebody else to give it to, sell it to, whatever. But I would get it out of the flock. I do believe that aggression can be a genetic trait, and I wouldn't want to pass those on to other birds. So I don't really tolerate aggression too much in my birds. I try to call it out. I very seldom have any problems with fighting or any of that kind of stuff anymore, just because I call out the aggressive birds whenever I find one, and I haven't had to do that in a while. All right. Jaden says, do you sell your kits? If so, how do I get them? I do sell some occasionally, but not very often. I just sell them on Craigslist when I do, but it's not something I do on a regular basis. So unless you're like local, and just happen to be watching Craigslist whenever I have some for sale, there's not really a good way to do that. Unfortunately, I'm just not a big enough operation. I don't breed enough to really have a bunch for sale all the time. All right. Tommy says, too many hens. 5 is a good number, but still could be a bit too much. It's possible. I mean, 5's not a bad number. I don't think 6 is too many at all. I've never noticed hen aggression to be based on the number of hens that they have. It's just, they're just like any other bird. They're going to be, any other flocking bird, I guess that should be. They're going to, they do want to establish kind of a pecking order, and that may be all it is. You may give them a little bit of time. They may get over it pretty quick. Sometimes that happens. But it's pretty common in chickens. It's pretty common in quail. It's just a common thing that occurs. So, all right, Freezer says, click the like button, guys. Well, thank you very much, Freezer. I appreciate that. Fox says, hello from Quebec. After you butcher your rabbits, do you age the meat, and do you place your meat rabbit in the bucket of water and let it soak overnight or more? Yeah, okay, good question. I do age the meat, not for very long, just until the rigor mortis passes the meat, which is usually about 2 days. Something like that. I personally think that they are better off dry aged as opposed to in a bucket of water or whatever. So I just put them in a bowl. I got a great big bowl. I put them in the fridge, and just keep them in the refrigerator for a couple of days until rigor mortis leaves, which is, like I said, usually about 2 days, something like that. They can up to a week is fine as well. But that's it. I don't do anything else special to them necessarily. All right, Will says, have you seen Joel Salatin Racking House? I have seen it. I don't remember the specifics of it, but yeah, I've seen it. I need to look it up again to get more familiar with it. All right, Freezer says, when you click the like button, more people can see the live stream, and it's support for the channel. Well, it is. Thank you, Freezer. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Johnny says, Melaleuca is tea tree. Melaleuca is tea tree. Really? Okay. I didn't know that. I do use a little bit of tea tree oil in my, whenever I treat rabbits for ear mites. It is soothing to, and it's just a little bit, just a couple of drops in a thing of olive oil or vegetable oil or whatever kind of food grade oil I have on hand. And it is soothing to wounds and things like that. It helps with healing and those kinds of things. So I use a little bit of that, not much, but it is good to know that, it's toxic, so I don't want them eating it for sure. Tommy says, I love Joe Salatin. He is a great advocate. He is for sure. I agree. Pam says, I tried Scotch eggs using quail eggs last week. They were a great recipe on the internet. I've only had Scotch eggs one time. They were okay. I didn't think they were all that fantastic. But I might try them again. Maybe I'll try to make my own with quail eggs. That might be a little bit better. I had them with regular chicken eggs, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try that again. All right. Julie says, hi, Julie from Melbourne, Australia. I've adopted a pair of buttons. Wow, now have 2 chicks. I didn't realize anything could be so tiny. I removed 9 eggs. Which plants are safe to plant in an aviary? I get that question every once in a while, and I don't have a great answer for it. Probably need to do a little bit of research and put a video out on it. There's a lot of things that are safe for your birds. I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. There's not, look up the things that are not safe for your birds. The ones that I can think of right off the top of my head are going to be like vegetables, because that's what I think of whenever I think of plants for your birds, things you're going to feed them. So nightshades you want to stay away from. That would include tomatoes, potatoes I think are a nightshade as well. Peppers. The plants themselves can be toxic. The fruit's fine, but the plants themselves can be toxic, so you want to stay away from those. But I don't think your birds are going to eat things that are not okay for them, unless they're like starving to death or something. So as long as you're keeping them fed, I don't know that I'd worry too much about the plants that you feed them. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't know all the, that could be an exhaustive list, first of all, and I don't know every one of those plants on there. So I think it would be easier to look up what's not safe for your birds. Just do a Google search for it. Everything else is probably okay. But if you want to feed them things, just regular old grass is fine for them. Hay, alfalfa, wheat, any of those kinds of things are going to be just fine for your birds. That's all I can think of right offhand. All right, Jack says, can I keep my quail in the greenhouse for winter? Yeah, I don't see why you can't. Go ahead and do it. The only thing I would worry about is it getting too hot in there. So as long as you have a way to regulate the temperature where it doesn't get too hot, I'd try to keep it down below about 80 degrees. Your birds are going to be much more comfortable. They're going to be, like I said, they're much more comfortable, in 40-degree weather than they are in 90-degree weather. So I would really try to, you don't want to close them up in there and have it like 110 degrees, high humidity in there. They're going to struggle in that. All right, Fan Me says, I'm pretty sure you click on my name and it says make Fan Me a moderator. Well, it doesn't actually. It doesn't even let me click on your name. I can highlight it and copy and stuff, but that's it. All right, Tommy says, I've only been eating extra roos. Do the hens taste different? No, they're the same. There's no difference. All right, Lucky13 says, no question tonight, just shouting out hi from Kansas. I just took 24 gold and Italians off the brooder lamp tonight and have 60 more incubating. Living Traditions is a great channel. They are indeed, I agree. And congratulations on your birds, your new ones. 24 of them off the brooder lamp and you have 60 more incubating. Fantastic. Hopefully you have a great hatch rate. All right, the Seats family says, hello, Chris. I started a quail a while back with inspiration from you. I just now started rabbits. I got questions. First, can my buck breed before 6 months? 2, can my California buck breed non-meat rabbits? Yeah. Okay, first of all, let's start with the California buck. Yeah, you can breed it to any rabbit you want to. I wouldn't breed it with a mini rabbit, like a mini Rex or something like that, because there's just a huge size difference. So I wouldn't do that. But before 6 months, it's possible that they can breed. There's not really, I don't think, much harm that's going to happen from trying. 6 months is generally considered, though, the kind of the minimum age when most, mid-sized to large-sized rabbits, like your meat rabbits, Californias, New Zealand's, all those things, that's generally considered the age when they become sexually mature and available to breed. You really don't want to breed a doe younger than that. There can be damage if you breed a doe and she's too young to breed. Males probably just won't try to breed if they're too young. So you could try it out and see. And Family says, in case you need me as a moderator. I appreciate that, Family. Sometimes I do need moderators, but it looks like we're doing okay tonight. So Christian says, what do I do in the winter to keep my newborn rabbits warm? Nothing. As long as you have a nest box in there, the rabbit has built a nest, the mother rabbit has built a nest, she's lined it with her fur, or she covers them up with her own fur, and they're not out in the wind, they're fine. I've had babies born in well below 0 temperature, never had any problems with the weather. Unless they're born outside of the nest box on the cage floor, and I don't get to them quick enough to get them in the nest box. That's the only time I've ever had a problem. I have had more problems in the summertime, in the heat of summer. I've had rabbits born in the heat of summer, and I've lost a couple of them because of the heat. But I've never really had problems with the wintertime, the cold, well below freezing. All right. Agus wants to know, when are you going to start selling your solar lights for quails? I'm working on something with that right now. The manufacturer contacted me, wanted to know if I want to kick that off. I tried to do a couple of Kickstarters on it to earn the money to do the bulk orders to get them in. Both of those failed. I didn't get funded, so I don't have the funding to do a big bulk order, but there may be an opportunity here. I'm not sure yet. I'm working with them. There's a little bit of a language barrier, so it's kind of slow. I'm not picking on them. They were in a different country altogether. Super nice people. They do a good job. I think they're, very trustworthy, all those kinds of things. But there is a little bit of a language barrier there, so it's a little bit slow communicating back and forth. Not to mention a time change. So, they leave me a message at night. I answer it the next day. Then it's the next night when they respond, and sometimes I don't understand, so I have to ask them, "What exactly are you saying here?" But I'm working on it. I'm working on something that I can make those available for you. Unfortunately, it'll probably be it's coming from China, so it'll be a couple of months before they would get here. If you do buy one, it's like a 3-month turnaround. Probably won't be here much in time to help this winter, but you can have them on hand to help next winter or maybe even to early spring. Anyway, we'll find out. I'll let you guys know as soon as I do. All right. Susie says, Chris, I've tried about everything to get my does to breed, but nothing works. The buck is ready. I've done all the information in past videos. That's tough. Sometimes you get a doe that just doesn't want to breed. Now, a couple things you can do if you haven't done it already, add some light, get the light up to about 14 hours a day. That can help. You can also try trading them out. Put the doe in the buck's cage, put the buck in the doe's cage, and leave them there for a couple of weeks. And then take the doe and bring her to the buck. That gives her a chance to get his scent, to get a little bit more used to him, just through the smell basically, and get comfortable with them. And that might work for you. If all else fails, you can try force breeding, which is, your buck's ready, so you would have to hold the doe, lift for him, and let him, breed the rabbit. I don't really like doing that, but it's an option you can do if all else fails, or just look for another rabbit, and that's sometimes easier way to fix it. All right, Steven says, are there any diseases that can cross over between chickens and Ketones quail? Love your shows and information. Yeah, there are actually. There are diseases that chickens can be carriers of, and they can pass on to your quail. I don't remember what diseases those are. I did a video on it. Oh, good grief. It's probably been a couple of years ago. And I don't remember the specifics, but it is possible for them to carry a disease. It's not necessarily likely. It's probably not a big concern, but it is a possibility. All right, Casey says, love your videos. I just hatched some quails about 4 weeks ago. Awesome. Thanks for watching them. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. I am Mike says, I forgot to put my eggs on its pointy side down, so only 2 hatched out of 50. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. You can do it again next time. Lesson learned. You figured it out. You know what you did wrong. Next hatch is going to be much, much better. Don't beat yourself up over it. It's okay. All right. Kitty says, Kit Kat Kitty, there we go, says, hi, glad to see this. My doe just had their babies and are 5 days apart. The first litter is opening their eyes. When can I give them pellets? And my second litter was born Halloween night. Well, first of all, congratulations on your new rabbits. Once the babies are born, just keep the mother's feeder full all the time. Just fill it up all the way. She's going to need the extra protein to make sure they're fed, and they're going to feed on their own. You don't have to worry about giving them pellets. They'll get out of the nest box probably around 10 days old, somewhere right around in there, and they'll start nibbling on mother's pellets. It's perfectly fine. You don't need to regulate it at all. They'll do it themselves, so you don't have to worry about it. But just like I said, fill her feeder up. Just keep it full all the time. They'll start eating when they're ready, and you don't have to worry about it. All right. Tommy says, my quail love basil. Well, who doesn't? I mean, basil's fantastic. But yeah, I've never tried to feed it to the quail. Says, OT grows easy. OT. Maybe it. I think it's it. It grows easy in most zones as well. I read it's an antibacterial for their respiratory system and great if having trouble breathing. Their favorite flowers, they favor the flowers and the buds the most. Interesting. I may have to try that next time I pick off the flowers off my basil whenever it's starting to bolt. I'll take them to the quail and see how they like them. I've never tried it, actually. All right, Jaden Smith wants to know, are Texas A&M quail good egg layers? Yeah, they are. In fact, pretty much any Ketones quail is going to be a good egg layer. They all produce about an egg a day. My experience, the jumbo quail, the jumbo pharaohs, the jumbo meat makers, they're pretty much the same bird, honestly. Produce a slightly bigger egg, but it's not that much bigger, so it's not like twice the size or anything like that. But yeah, Texas A&M are good egg layers, nothing wrong with them. My experience with A&Ms is I had way more problems when I had them with aggression than I do with the standard brown colors. And I didn't like the fact that you can't feather sex them. You have to vent sex them. I like to be able to look at my birds and tell that's a hen, that's a rooster. So that's the reason I don't raise Texas A&M, but they're a fine bird. If that's what you've got, they're going to be great egg layers. There's nothing wrong with them. All right, Lucky13 says, thank you. I'm hoping for a great hatch rate. Thank you for the live streams and informative videos. They have made the entire process less intimidating. Well, thank you for watching. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. Where are we at here? All right. Excuse me here. All right, Kit Kats. Let's see. My mother rabbit keeps moving her babies. Could I stop this? Or why would she be doing this? Okay, she's probably not moving them. They're probably either moving on their own or they're staying attached to her while she's nursing. Mother rabbits don't really have the ability to pick their babies up and move them around like dogs or cats or any of those kinds of things do. If you don't have a nest box, like a separate box for them, if they're just in a nest on the cage floor, then they're probably just crawling around. Or they may be crawling out of the nest box, or like I said, they're latched onto her nursing. When she jumps out, they stay latched on. So you can put a lip on your nest box. So like you've got your nest box like this, it's got the tall walls, and then the front's usually opened up and down a little bit lower. You can put a little bit of a lip on there so that when she jumps out, it basically scrapes the babies off of her. That sounds hideous, but it can work. That would be my suggestion. If they're, like I said, if they're about 10 days old, they're probably hopping out of the nest box on their own. They can't always get back in, so sometimes that's a little bit tricky. But that would be my guess on what's happening, is that they're moving around on their own, or like I said, getting, latching on while they're nursing, and she's pulling them out of the nest box when she hops out. Bob says, do quail eggs get ruined or spoiled faster if they freeze outside? Yeah, they do, because it breaks the shell and introduces bacteria into the egg. I pretty much just throw out frozen eggs. If they freeze and crack, they're thrown out. Now, you can bring an egg in. You can crack the shell, dump the egg out like an ice cube tray or something like that, and freeze it if you want to. When you thaw it out, it's not going to be like good for like a fried egg, but it'd be fine for like scrambled eggs or baking or any of those kinds of things. All right, Gabriel says, hello, Chris. Have you ever thought about putting toys in the cages, in the quail cages? I'm pretty new to the quail game. Thank you. I've never really considered putting toys in there. I give them a sandbox, and they really enjoy the sandbox. They get in there and they kick around, they dust themselves in sand, all that, and that's probably about as far as I go. But I don't know if toys would be something entertaining for them or not. Try it out and see. I've never thought about it. All right, the Seeds family says, thanks, keep up the good work. I love your videos. They help me a lot. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Sunny says, when you get the lights going, please let me know. I want to. Well, I will. I'll let everybody know as soon as I can get them going. It's just a little bit of a tricky thing to do. Make sure that that I don't lose a bunch of money. I'm not looking to get rich off of it, but I can't afford to lose a bunch of money on it either. So working it out. We'll see. All right, Gary says, first time I had all my quail hens quit laying in one day. I did have a small hutch partially blocking night light, moved it, and upped their feed amount by 24 to 30%. Also haven't noticed roosters cover. Probably crowing, I guess, would be the guess. It's probably a light issue. The quail need about 14 hours of light in order to lay on a regular basis. And that means the roosters won't crow unless they've got 14 hours of light a day. So you may need to add some kind of light to it, either extend the daylight a little bit longer or, kick it on a little bit in the morning. Up to 14 hours. It doesn't have to be super bright light, but it does need to be a light. And enough to read by is probably plenty. And it doesn't really matter what color light, if it's more blue, more yellow, more white, it doesn't really matter. Any of those things are fine. I don't think red light's going to work that well because from my understanding, they don't see red that well. But I may be wrong about that one. I haven't tried it out. But again, add some kind of light, get them up to 14 hours a day of light. If you guys are like me right now, we're getting, let's see, 7, 12, we're getting about 10 hours a day of light right now. So they need about 4 hours of supplemental light in order to lay eggs. All right. Jeremy says, just popping in to say thank you. I started watching your videos a year ago. Now I sell my eggs, or I sell quail eggs and quail meat through the local farmer's market and to a restaurant, fully permitted. Awesome. Glad to hear things are going well for you, Jeremy. All right, Nicole says, have you ever had any way to get rid of urine stains on rabbit fur? I'm annoyed with the yellow feet on mine. They're on wire, but it seems impossible. Yeah, they're probably talking about bucks. Bucks can be really nasty. And just, the stains all over them, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you have a solid floor, it's even worse. But no, not an easy way to get rid of it. You could try, washing them, but that's going to be really, really difficult. If it's on their fur, just the regular fur, they'll shed that out eventually and clean themselves up. They usually do a pretty good job of that. But yeah, their feet do tend to get stained up. I don't know of an easy way to fix that. I just don't worry about it myself. But if it's something that bothers you, you could try, washing them. Dry them off really well before you put them back outside. You don't want to put a wet rabbit outside, especially not going into winter. All right. Pets World Wild Reptile says, do quail need to be older to be more fertile age too? I'm a little confused. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me. I think what you're saying is, do they need to be older to lay fertile eggs? And that's kind of, they need to be at least sexually mature, but usually by about the time they start laying eggs, you give them about 2 weeks, assuming the roosters are crowing and mounting and breeding and all those kinds of things, you're going to have fertile eggs. It usually just takes about a week or two after they first start laying. I don't think that older birds are more fertile. There does come a point when they get to a certain age, which is probably 3 years old, 4 years old, somewhere right around in there, where they're going to start becoming a little less fertile and they'll start slowing down on their egg production. But no, they don't need to be much older than that. They pretty much, once they start laying eggs, they're pretty much fertile. All right, Fox says, so you have 16 rabbits outside, and when the temperature falls to -20, they're doing just fine. Yep, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, -20 Celsius. Yeah, you're right. -4 degrees Fahrenheit's not that bad for a rabbit. They do just fine. All right, Big Al says, I've done everything, including courses. God, I hate rabbits. They won't breed. Oh. Okay, so you've done everything, but you can't get your rabbits to breed. You hate them. Well, rabbits don't always breed like rabbits. My suggestion would be, again, to, if you're really having that many problems, just look for new rabbits, especially a doe. Just look for a new doe. You'll find one that's receptive, and whenever you do, it's super easy. My doe right now is just, I put her in there. She lifts every time for the buck. It's easy. And life's so much easier that way than, having a doe that won't lift for the buck. It can be really frustrating. I feel your pain. All right. Tommy says to Steven, Coccidiosis can be transferred from chickens to quail. There are 2 forms of it, wet and dry. Wet is much more dangerous and likely ends in death. They will get weird swells on them, almost tumor-like. Well, I guess that's possible. Coccidiosis is actually a parasite, so they tend to be species specific, but I guess quail and chickens are probably close enough that I could see that being passed back and forth between them. All right, Pete's World Reptile says, can you feed rabbit feed to quail? I suppose you could, coccidiosis, yeah. I suppose you could feed rabbit feed to quail, but it's not an ideal feed for them. It's mostly alfalfa based. And quail really need a lot more than just alfalfa. You'd have to grind it up too, probably, to get them to eat it. You're really better off with a game bird starter or something specifically for them. All right. Casey says, are quail eggs good for cakes? Yeah, sure. You can use them just like you would use chicken eggs. You just have to up the ratio. Consider like 4 to 5 quail eggs. I usually do 5 quail eggs as 1 chicken egg. If they're exceptionally big eggs, it may be 4 eggs as 1 chicken egg. But yeah, they work fine for baking. All right, I am Ike says, I can't have any quail eggs to hatch, and both quails are roux. So I guess what you're saying is you've got quail, but they're both roosters, so you're not getting any eggs. Yeah, that's tough, man. I can't help with that, unfortunately. You can order eggs. Order them online, have them shipped to you, incubate them out, and get your hatches that way. You can do that. That's the best suggestion I got for you that way. All right, Kit Kat Kitty says, why can't a brother and sister breed? It's just bad practice. Brothers and sisters are really closely related in their genes. Of course, they're brother and sister, and you can end up with a whole lot of deformities. All kinds of issues can get into that. You just don't want to do it. It's just not good. It's not natural. Just don't do it. That's my answer. Gabriel says, drilled holes near the edge of a few CDs, tied them to the top of the cage with twine. The females can get a chance to fend off a male. Not that I had any decline in eggs till winter by running around them. Oh, interesting. So, okay, so you've got CDs hanging in your quail hutch, and the females run around there, and that keeps the males off of them. Okay, that's an interesting idea. All right, LJ Thomas says, between rabbits and quail, how sustainable are you for meat for your family? Well, I don't produce all the meat that we eat. I mean, we do produce quite a bit of it, and I also hunt. So whenever we're about out of deer meat now, but it's deer season, bow season anyway, and about to be rifle season, and so hopefully I'll get another deer this year, and we'll be able to fill the freezer back up. But we don't buy a ton of meat. Between those three and the chickens that we raised in the spring, that's most of our meat production. Occasionally we'll buy some pork, especially bacon. We do buy bacon. I shouldn't say that. I don't have a way to produce that myself. But we do still eat out fairly regularly, and we do still a lot of grocery shopping, just not a lot of meat. Usually it's a lot of vegetables and other things to go along with it. Sage and Stone says, have you ever had any problems with a mother rabbit rejecting babies from another rabbit? We have a mother with 3 and a mother with 10, born 2 days apart. I gave the doe with 3, 2 of the other doe's babies. I've never actually tried fostering kits, so I can't answer if that's a common problem, but they should accept them pretty readily. I don't know that there's really been, I don't think I've ever heard of an issue with rabbits really rejecting other rabbits. Not a common thing anyway. They're usually pretty receptive whenever they've got newborn babies. All right. Callie from Canada says, have one unique quail, looks like a rooster, color markings, crows like a rooster, is aggressive, so move the bird to a separate cage, and it's laying 1 to 2 eggs a day. Who would have guessed? Yeah, that's a little bit odd for sure, but it's not unheard of. Crazier things have happened. Craig Gabriel says, I'll buy a solar light. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Pete's World says, how fast do 15 to 20 quail go through a 50-pound bag of food? Let's see. It's pretty close to what I've got right now. And I want to say it's probably like a month, maybe a little bit longer. They don't go through it that fast, as long as you can reduce the waste. Now, if you just have it in an open container, it's going to go incredibly fast because they throw food everywhere. They waste an incredible amount of food. But if you have like a, I use like Tupperware style containers with a lid on them. I cut a hole in the side for them to stick their head through, and that conserves a lot of the feed. I don't have a lot of waste, and it takes, probably the better part of at least a month, maybe a little bit longer before they go through a 50-pound bag of food. Tiffany says, how many quail would you recommend when first starting? Well, it depends on kind of how big your hutch is and all those kinds of things. A dozen's a good number to start with. That gives you a pretty good amount of eggs. If you want to incubate eggs, you can get enough together that it's worth incubating and grow your flock pretty quickly. But again, it depends on the size of your hutch. You want to have at least 1 square foot per bird. So you need a hutch big enough to hold that many quail, which would be 12 square feet. So like 6 by 2 or 4 by 3, something like that. 4 foot long, 3 foot wide. That kind of gives you an idea. Plus, if you're going to be breeding and incubating eggs, you'll need a place for those to grow out. So you'll need additional room for the grow out birds. You just kind of have to think of. So hopefully that kind of answers the question. All right, Dawn says, hey Chris, I needed outside cages for my quail, but wanted stacked cages. So I crossed your design with Terry's from Ketones Corner and built my breeder and grow outs. Thanks for the info. Awesome. I bet it works out fantastic. I've seen his cages. They look great. So nothing wrong with that. All right. Is that Zavi? Is that the name? I think I got it right. It says, how old do quail have to be to make eggs? Usually about 8 weeks old. Some will start laying eggs a little bit earlier, some a little bit later, to 10 weeks, somewhere around in there. But generally about 8 weeks old is when you can expect them to be pretty much sexually mature, start laying eggs, the rooster's starting to crow. Mind Business says, how quickly do you remove the wire nest box in the summer and the winter? Well, I don't really change it in the winter or the summertime. I don't do much breeding in the summer. It's almost all winter. But I just remove the nest box whenever the babies stop using it. Usually that's somewhere around almost 3 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. I just watch them when I go out there and they're spending most of their time outside of the nest box. I pull it out. And, a lot of times you'll see them getting out of the nest box, but there'll still be 2 or 3 in the nest box hanging out. You go out and check on them later, they're all back in the nest box, and then usually by about 3 weeks, they're spending most of their time outside of the nest box. They just don't need it anymore at that point. All right. Jaden wants to know, are you going to expand your animals? Who knows? I may, but at this point, I don't have any big plans to do so. I live in town, so I can only get away with so much. I don't want to draw too much attention to myself, get myself in trouble. I've got to be kind of careful with that. But who knows? Maybe at some point I will. All right, Kathy says to Cat Kitty says you can look up line breeding for more info on your topic. Oh, about breeding brothers and sisters. Yeah, you can look that up and find out more. But yeah, it's bad practice, mostly because of deformities and things that could go wrong. All right, Carolyn says thanks for all you do. Well, thank you for the kind comments. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. I was checking the time, see how we're doing. 15 minutes left. We're doing pretty good here. All right, Kit Kat Kitty, one of my rabbits is mostly not wanting to hang out with me, but she had her babies and now she wants me to help her. She only feeds the babies when I'm there and she hasn't abandoned them, and she does wash and take care of them too. Yeah, rabbits can be a little bit nutty like that. A lot of times your rabbit's personalities when they have babies will totally change. Now my rabbit currently is not too bad to deal with much, but when she has babies, you got to be really careful putting your hand in there. She'll jump at you and growl and try to bite you and just get super aggressive when she has babies. Some rabbits are the other way around. They can be somewhat aggressive, and then when they have babies, they're just friendly as can be. All right, Lynn says, rub an orphan kit on the mother's fur and on the baby's fur has worked to reduce foster rejection. That's a good suggestion. Zavi says, how do you tell a quail's age? Boy, I don't know if there's an easy way to do that or not. I mean, you can kind of tell older birds. They just have a little bit more fat on them. They're a little bit more bigger, I guess. But there's no easy way to look at them and say, oh, that bird's this old, that bird's that old. I don't know of an easy way anyway. All right. All right. Kathy says, hi, Chris. Have you started your rabbit season yet? I don't think I saw anything. I'll have to look again. No, I've actually kind of held off on the rabbits for just a bit. Mostly because I'm looking for some new rabbits. These rabbits, the one I've got, her babies grow out so slow. She's a great mother. She's a great breeder, but it's a really slow growth rate on them. I want something that's going to produce a little bit faster. So I don't really want to breed her, get committed to that because I need an extra cage for grow out space. My buck's starting to get a little bit older, so I'm kind of thinking I want to keep 2 cages open, see if I can find some good breeding stock, put them in those, and then I'll work on getting rid of the other ones at that point. All right, Pete wants to know how much square footage do you need per quail and how easy it is to tame a quail? They can be tamed up pretty easily if you just put the effort into it. Just handle them quite a bit. Bring them some treats, mealworms, and things like that when you go to visit them. Spend a lot of time with them. They're not that hard to tame up. As far as how much space goes, you need a minimum of about 1 square foot per bird. You can pack them a little bit tighter than that, but really it's best to have about 1 square foot per bird. All right. Connie says, my Texas A&M lay huge eggs and are better layers than my Jumbo Wild. Interesting. They have about 15% higher fertility. Interesting. I've never noticed that myself, but who knows? Says these are the A&M improved from James Marie Farms. Well, I may have to give them a shot again at some point. Who knows? And Pete says, sorry for all the comments. Don't be sorry about that. That's what this is for. If there weren't any comments, I'd just be sitting here. Wouldn't know what to say. So Aaron says, I have 2 females. Any tips for starting out as a breeder? 2 female what are we talking about, Aaron? Are they quail? Are they birds? I'm sorry, I'm not sure. But I mean, as far as the tips go, I've got tons of videos on all that kind of stuff. You can go back and watch them, but it's not that difficult. Don't stress out about it. If they're rabbits, I would say, get a buck, of course. Always take your rabbit to the buck. Don't take your buck to the doe. Sorry, take your doe to the buck. Don't take your buck to the doe. Does can get very territorial. They can, really damage a buck. Just take the doe, put her in the buck's cage, watch them for 15 minutes. Make sure that the breeding successfully happens. You'll know because the buck will seize up and fall off. It's kind of comical usually, but you'll know that it was a successful breeding. I usually try to give them at least 2 of those fall-offs. And then wait 30 days and plan on rabbits in 30 days. As far as the quail go, just put your roosters in. You need 1 rooster for every 4 to 5 hens. Try not to go too much higher than that with your rooster to hen ratio. Put them all together and collect the eggs up and incubate them. That's really about all there is to that. It's pretty simple. All right. Hopefully that answered your question if that was it. So Connie says, we have a good egg maker and it's worth it to put up with the slightly more aggressive birds. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I'm not saying that anybody has to. I personally don't like aggression in my birds. I don't deal with it very long, but if you can tolerate it, there's nothing wrong with that. Silas says, dang it, I'm late. Hey, that we don't keep attendance. It's okay. Nobody's going to count you late. Pop says, hi from Washington State. Is ordering quail eggs during the winter a good idea or wait till spring? Yeah, that's a good question. I know plenty of people that have ordered them during the winter. I would say look at where the shipper is located compared to where you're located, kind of the route that the eggs will take. Look for the weather. If as long as it's not going to be terribly cold, below freezing for, a week or whatever, then it's probably a decent time to go ahead and order them. My concern is that if you order them, they're shipped through U.S. mail anyway. Probably anybody, but shipped through U.S. mail. They get stuck in the back of a truck and sit there overnight in sub-zero temperature. It's probably going to ruin the eggs. So you may have to, just kind of watch the weather a little bit, plan it out, but there's nothing wrong with ordering them in the winter. All right. Kitty says, what's a good way, an easy way to house for the baby rabbits once they don't live with their mother rabbit? Just another cage. I grow out my grow outs. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, like house them if you're talking about like housing them long term, or if you're looking at just growing them out until they're ready to process. I don't know if you're raising meat rabbits or how, but I have two separate cages on my hutch. So I have 4 cages total. I have 2 breeders, a male and a buck and a doe. And those 2 cages are empty and they're available for my grow outs. So I take my grow outs when they're done with mom, take them to there. Now, if you get good bloodlines, you can get your baby rabbits up to butcher weight by 8 weeks old. And then I just usually leave them in the mother's cage, leave them with her. But that's it. I just have a separate cage for them. I'm not sure that there's anything easier than that. Pete says, should you be worried about the lawnmower scaring rabbits? I've never noticed it giving him much problems. I mow right past them on my riding mower, and it doesn't seem to bother them at all. All right, Gabriel has a riddle for us. Surrounding but not binding, abundant yet weightless, thicker below and thin on top. Without it, we would surely drop. And is that air? I think probably oxygen. All right, Kathy says, how slow is a slow grow out? By, say, 8 weeks and 12 weeks, what are your good weights? Or what are good weights? A really good grow out rate is 5 pounds by 8 weeks, roughly 5 pounds. Mine currently take about 12 weeks to get there. So to me, that's a little bit of a slow grow out. That's a full month more that I have to feed them out, take care of them, all those kinds of things until they're ready to process. So I really try to find good genetics, breeders that will produce young that will get to about 5 pounds by 8 weeks old. Hopefully that answers that. All right, Gizmo says, do you have any advice on goats worth raising? I'm thinking about doing so. It depends on what you want to do the goats for. If you want them for dairy goats, or you would have to breed them once a year, have babies, those kinds of things. I mean, it could definitely be worth it. I don't know if I can tell you if it's worth it or not. I personally like goats, so if I had extra room, I'd probably have a couple of goats if I could get away with it. But that's just going to have to be your call. It's whether it's worth it or not. All right. Zabby says, what is the name of the food for your quail food and where do you get it? Okay, well, I buy mine from a local feed mill. It's Neosho, Missouri. It's about 25 minutes from here. And it's their local, it's MFA Agri Services is the name of the company. But it's their local, they mill it themselves. It's a 30% game bird starter. So you probably don't have that available in your area. I don't know where you live exactly, but check with local feed mills if you have any. That's the best place to get your feed if you can. Oh, another drink here real quick. All right, how are we doing here? 5 minutes left. All right, Silomore says, I've been selling quail eggs on Amazon for 5 years now. The USPS does a great job getting my eggs to buyers, even during the winter, and usually within 4 days max. Well, great. I'm glad to hear that. See, maybe it isn't such a big deal. Go ahead and do it. All right, Gabriel says, yes, Air. Great channel. Thanks for all the great info. You're welcome. Sage says, goats are great. Even dairy goats can be dual purpose. They can, can't they? Mix-Up says, I want to die. I have 0 friends. I hope you're just trolling us and you're not serious about that. Here's what I'll tell you. If you're going through something like that, I pray for you for sure. But just hang in there. Life gets better. Life's a roller coaster. You're going to go through hard times. You're going to go through better times. It's going to get better. I've gone through times where I felt very alone in my life, and times where I felt like I've got lots of friends. Join a church group, something like that. Get out there and meet some people, and then you'll make some friends. But again, I'm hoping that that was just something to get my reaction and not really a serious thing. It will get better, trust me. It always does. All right. Thank you. This is Gizmo says, thank you. Thinking about meat goats. Yeah, that would probably be good. All right, Kit Kat says, what's the oldest breeding doe you have? Well, I only have one doe right now, but she's about 4 years old probably. So she's getting up there. Usually you can get about 4 to 5 years out of a doe, about the same out of a buck before it's time to replace them. All right. Lodrell, good night. Says, good talk. Good night, all. Good night to you, Lodrell. Thanks for joining us. Eric says, tip for hanging rabbit cages found mirror hooks work great. Found them at a local hardware store. Wanted to pass it on. We've talked about alternatives last live feed. Yeah, there you go. That's a good tip. Thanks. And Mixup says, thank you. This made me feel a lot better. You're absolutely welcome. And like I said, hang in there. Things get better. It gets tough at times, but it will always get better in the end. It's just sometimes hard working through that, but you're better off in the end whenever you do work through those difficult times in life. All right, LJ wants to know what's easier, quail or rabbits? They're both pretty easy. I don't know that one's easier than the other. If you want to talk about like easier for food production, it's probably the quail because you can just ramp up really, really fast. They're a little bit easier to process than the rabbits are, but they're both pretty easy. All right, Lost in the Woods says, is it worth hatching quail in the winter without a proper place for them? We have a small hutch, and I don't want them to freeze once they are old enough to be outside. I don't incubate in the wintertime just because I have to keep them in the brooder box a little bit longer, and I don't want to deal with it. I just do it in the spring and the summer, but it may work out well for you. Try it out and see how well it works. You're going to have to keep them in the brooder till they're, depends on your temperatures, but probably about 3 to 4 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, and kind of wean them off of the heat lamps to make sure they're prepared to go outside. How are we doing on time? About 3 or 4 minutes left. All right, Jamoy says, I'm Jamaican. Well, I'm American. Glad you can make it to the live broadcast. Thanks for joining us. Us says, hi, bro, started a rabbitry watching your show. Cheers, mate. Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear things are going well for you. Connie says, it seems that in Europe, they are producing bigger quail, and they seem to think that that is the future of quail for meat and eggs. What do you think? Well, I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to what's going on with quail in Europe, but if they're producing bigger quail, awesome. I'd like to have bigger birds. Brittany says, have you ever had kits get eye infections in the nest box? We had 2-week-olds, and 3 of them had eyes that are crusty. Used warm water to remove the gross stuff, hoping for the best. Yeah, I've had, it's called nest box eye. It's a pretty common thing, and it's basically just an eye infection. What I usually do to treat that is I brew some chamomile tea, put a little bit of honey in there, stir it around real good, make sure it dissolves, dip that tea bag in the chamomile tea and use that to kind of rub their eyes, to rub the gunky, crusty stuff away. With the honey in there and stuff, it has some antimicrobial properties, and it can help heal that up pretty easily. But if you just keep it clean, it will usually clear up on its own. All right. Something about getting on, Kathy says, get on TikTok, great community. I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll do that at some point. I doubt it, but it's possible. Steven says, do you have to use the quail scissors to open eggs? You don't have to, but it's much, much easier. You can do it with like a serrated knife and basically just kind of cut the eggshell top off. That makes it a little bit easier. But the quail egg scissors are the way to go. They're cheap enough, just buy a couple of them. All right, Silentmore says, to mix up, things always change. Keep that in mind. Absolutely, I agree. Kit Kat wants to, is regular nail polish okay to mark a baby rabbit on the nails? Maybe, I don't know. I don't think I would do that. But go ahead if you want to try it. I don't guess it would hurt them. I think it's probably okay. All right, how are we doing on time? About done here. We got to wrap this up pretty quick, but Danny says, what makes a 16-week-old rabbit not want to eat? I just got it. Oh boy, that could be a number of things. It could be sick. It could have some kind of illness. Maybe there's a drastic change in food. So you might talk to the previous owner where you got it from. What were they feeding it? You don't want to do drastic diet changes in rabbits. They can be pretty sensitive. So if you've got a rabbit that was being fed nothing but pellets and you're trying to feed it nothing but greens, that may be why it's not eating. Because, they do a drastic diet change. can be hard on their digestion and get diarrhea. They can die pretty easily from that. You want to ease them into any kind of big diet change. So I would say check with them, see what he was eating before. That would be my best guess. Gizmo says, pray for this country, sir. People like you give me hope. I do pray for the country all the time. Absolutely do. And Silent Moore says, quail tractors work fine, just like chickens, in my opinion. I'm going to have to try it out at some point. I hear a lot about it. But all right, guys, that wraps it up for tonight. I've got a couple more things in there, but I can't. I gotta quit paying attention or I'll keep talking. And it's getting late. It's time for me to go spend some time with my family before it's time to go to bed, get up and go to work tomorrow. So thanks, guys, for sticking with me. I know it's been a little bit hit or miss here lately, but I'll get back on track with videos and things soon, I hope. And we'll keep doing the live broadcast once a week. So anyway, God bless each and every one of you. We will see you guys again next week. Take care.